Hello friends, welcome back to EPG Pathshala to continue our journey of learning object oriented concepts in programming using C++. In the previous module, we learnt about function in C++. In this module, we will learn more about functions in C++. To be specific, in this particular module, we will discuss function overloading, default arguments, friend function and pointer to function. You would recall that whenever we call a function, the function call is bound to a specific function, and to do this particular binding, the compiler have to identify the function with which the call has to be bound. You would recall that this identification of function which needs to be bound to a specific call is being done with the help of function signatures. A function signature is what the compiler and the linker use to identify a function. You would recall that in C the functions are identified only by their names, but in C++ a function's signature includes its name, parameters, and if suppose we are qualifying the function with const, what we discussed in the previous module, even that qualification is also being used to identify the function. In C, since the functions are identified only by the name, the language does not allow you to specify more than one function with the same name in the same scope. But in C++, the function is being identified not only by the name, but also with the parameters that has been passed. Therefore, C++ allows you to have more than one functions with the same name in the same scope, provided that these two definitions of the functions differ in terms of number of argument the function has and the type of argument that function has. So, in C++ it is possible to define more than one function with the same name in the same scope as long as they differ in number and size of parameters. And this phenomena of defining more than one function with the same name is called function overloading. Let us understand this with the help of an example. In C++, it is possible for us to define three functions, following three functions having the same name add. You would see that all the three functions have the same name, but they do differ in terms of the number of arguments they have and the type of argument they have. The first function has two integer argument, then second second function has three integer arguments and the third one has two float arguments. Therefore, these two functions can be distinguished in terms of the number of argument being passed, and these two also can be differentiated by means of the number of arguments being passed to these functions, and these two can this and this can be identified by means of the type of argument that has been passed. So, as long as it is possible for compiler to determine that which call can be bound to which particular function, it allows you to have more than functions with the same name. Let us see the use of these functions in program. These three functions have been implemented, and there are here you see that three different calls to the add function. Now, see, this is also a call to add function, this is also a call to add function, this is also the call to the add function, and there are three add functions. So, compiler has a task in hand to determine that this call should be bound to which of these three, the second call should be bound to which of these three, and the third call is to be bound to which of these three. You would see that in the first case we are passing two integer arguments, two actual integer arguments. Therefore, looking at the number and the type of argument, the compiler will determine that this call should be bound to this particular function. So, this call will be bound to this function. In the next call we are providing three integer values. So, this call will be bound to this particular function, and in the last one we are providing two float values as an argument. Therefore, this particular call will be bound to this. So, here for these three calls, compiler is using number and the type of arguments of these three add functions to determine that the call should be bound to which of these three add functions. And since in the same scope we are defining three functions with the same name, we call it overloading of function overloading. Here we are overloading add function as we have 3 different forms of add function. But as I said, that compiler can allow you this only as long as it does not find it ambiguous to determine that the call should be bound to which particular function. There does arise certain situation wherein a call seems to be valid for getting it bound to 2 different definitions, which means that when I call a particular function, it may look like that this can be bound to one function, this can also be bound to another function. In that case, it creates an ambiguous situation for compiler, and if at all there is an ambiguous situation for compiler, compiler will not allow you to have those kind of calls. Now, let us understand this with the help of an example. Well, this was the output of this particular function when there is no ambiguity to the compiler. So, this particular program successfully compiles and executes, gives this argument. But in this particular case, the first two call, the first one we are passing value 1, value 2, where value 1 and value 2 are integers. So, here there is no ambiguity. This call is clearly a case where it has to be bound to this particular function. Similarly, in the second call we are passing 3 integer values. So, there is no ambiguity. This call clearly is to be bound to the second one. But if you look at the third call, here we are providing 2 arguments, but the first one is an integer, the first one is the double value and the second one is the integer value. So, when it is a first one is double and integer, you see that there is no add function which has 2 arguments wherein the first one is double and the second one is integer. So, some implicit conversion has to take place to make this call workable. Now, there are 2 possibilities, either data 1 can be converted to integer and this can be bound to the first one, or the value 2 can be converted to a double value and this call can be bound to the third definition. Now, in both the cases, both the possibilities are there. Now, it is a question for compiler to whether go for the first one or the third one, that is whether to convert data 1 to integer and then bind this call to this function, or to convert value 1 to double and bind this call to this function. Now, since there is no clear way of determining for compiler or there is no clear way by which the compiler can decide that this call should be bound to which particular function, what compiler would do? Compiler would not accept such a call and it would flag an error. So, let us see what kind of error this program will call. It would say that 2 overloads have similar conversions and therefore, your program will not successfully compile. So, to summarize this, it is possible for you to have more than one functions with the same name, and this phenomenon we call as function overloading. But this is possible only when the different definitions of the same function differ in terms of number of arguments being passed or the type of argument being passed, and in no situation it does create an ambiguity wherein it becomes difficult for compiler to decide that this call should be bound to more than one function. So, whenever we make a call and the possibility of that call getting bound to 2 function is there, this situation will not be accepted by the compiler. But if there is a clear way of determining that which call should be bound to which particular function by the compiler, compiler will allow you to have more than function with the same name. The function overloading is possible when the multiple definition of function has different type or different number of arguments, but the functions cannot be distinguished by their return type. What does that mean? We cannot have the following functions. Let us say if we have 2 functions with the same name, do work, they do differ in terms of their return types, but their arguments are same. But this kind of overloading is not possible. Why it is not possible? Because the compiler distinguishes between the functions by means of what kind of parameters are being passed at the time of calling that function, and you know that at the time of calling a function we do not have any way of knowing that what kind of return value is being accepted. So, for example, if we have these two functions and we have two integer parameters input 1 and input 2 and we make this kind of an call, compiler has no way to determine whether you want this function to be called or whether you want this function to be called. So, since at the time of the call return type is not been mentioned, therefore, return type cannot be used to distinguish between two functions. So, for function overloading, having two functions whose signatures are similar except by the return type that they have, such function overloading is not possible. Well, in C++ we can have default arguments. You may recall what are default arguments. It is possible that in function definition we may provide some default values to some of the arguments. What is the meaning of default value? Default value is the value that needs to be used when value for that argument is not being provided by the user. So, if the user do not provide the value for that particular argument, the default value would be used. Let us see an example to make it more clear. You would see here that we have a function compute percentage which requires two arguments, that is the marks obtained by the student and the maximum marks, that is the total marks out of which these marks have been obtained. Now, if you look at the call to this particular function, you would see that out of these three function calls, the maximum marks value is same. The marks obtained differs in each call, but the maximum marks is same. This is so because you know that whenever there is a class, the marks obtained by individual student may differ, but the maximum marks would remain same for all students. And sometimes while calling this function for computing the percentage of n number of students, we may find not very convenient to always provide the maximum values. We might find that it is unnecessary, this is a value which is same for all. So, why at all I am required to repeatedly pass that kind of an value. Well, if you find the situation wherein you have to provide this value which is same, but still you have to provide it in every call, not very convenient one, or what you can do is you can define the max marks parameter as default. So, what we can do is here we can define the default value for maximum marks. Here we have defined the default value of maximum marks to be 50. So, now though this particular function has two arguments, but since for the second argument a default value is been provided, therefore, for calling this particular function we may pass one argument or we may pass two arguments. It is not necessary anymore to pass two arguments. If we would have not provided this default value, every time we call this particular function we would have required to pass two arguments, but since for this parameter we have provided a default value, this function can be called by providing the value for only this. And if you do not, so see if you look at this first call, here we are providing only the value for the first argument and we are not providing the value for the second one, and this would this kind of a call will work because a default value for this second parameter has been provided. Now, in case of this call, the value 25 will be taken for this argument and for this argument the value 50 will be taken. You would see that in the second call we have provided both the values, that is value for this and this both. So, 35 will be taken for the first argument, and for the second argument, since we have provided a value, therefore, this default value will be ignored and this 40 will be considered as a value for the second argument. In the third one, we have provided only one argument, therefore, 45 will be taken as a value of marks obtained, and since we have not provided the value for the maximum marks, the default value 50 will be taken as a value for the second parameter, and all these these call will succeed. If this would have not been a default parameter, the first and the third call would not have worked, but since there is a default value, all the three calls are valid. In these two calls, the value for the second argument will be taken, the one which we have defined as a default one, and for the second one this default value will be ignored and 40 will be taken as a value for this argument, and when this function executes, this is the output that you are going to see. Why use default arguments? Default argument removes the need of passing argument, as we said that if for 10 students the maximum value remains common for all the 10, we do not need to provide that value 10 times in call to that each call to that function. We can do with providing a single value, but it does reduce readability. What does that mean? See, when we are calling this particular function compute percentage by passing a single value, it gives us an impression as if only a single value is required for computing percentage, but which is not so. We actually need two values, that is marks obtained and the maximum marks for computation of the percentage. So, it does hide certain information and which makes the program less readable, but you may decide that when it is comfortable, or I mean whether you want to go for ease of not supplying the value for a parameter which most of the time has a fixed value, or we want to make your program readability is more important to you and hence you do not want to do it. So, you can make an appropriate decision depending on the kind of situation that you need to deal with. Well, another interesting function, interesting phenomena that you can have with the functions is that it is possible for you to make functions friend. When would you like to make a function friend? You may recall that when we were discussing classes and objects, we had discussed that the members of the class, some of the members of the class can be made private, and in majority of the cases we make all the data members private, and we do so because we do not want these data members to be accessed or manipulated by functions which are outside class or non-member functions. And we do not want this to be done because we have defined a way in which these data members should be manipulated. So, we want these data members to be manipulated only by the member functions, and we do not want to provide the access to these data members to the functions which are outside ones, that is the functions defined in other classes or the independent functions. But there may be some cases in which we want these data members to be accessed to one or two outside members. What should we do? One option is we can make such data members public, but the moment we make these data members public, they not only remain accessible to those one or two functions to which we want this access to be granted, but it becomes public to all outside functions. But that we did not want. What we wanted to grant access to one or two functions, but we did not want rest of the functions to be able to access those data members. So, what we can do? What we can do is the functions to which we want to allow the access to our private data members, we can declare them as friends. So, the moment we declare these functions as a friend, since that function has become our friend, we would trust that function and would allow that function to access the data members. You would know that why we make the data members private, because this makes the application far more maintainable, and this helps us achieve the data hiding. The moment we make certain functions friend, you would realize that we are violating data hiding to some extent. That is, we are making that particular data that we have completely hidden open and accessible to some of the functions, that results into the violation of that data hiding. So, what should we do? Ideally, data hiding is a strong object oriented paradigm which must be achieved in our application, but there does arise certain situation wherein we find that we probably may have to violate this data hiding, not completely, but to certain extent. Let us understand the need of function. Why should we create function need friend? Have a look at this particular function, code snippet. Here we have defined two classes, one class is doctor, another class is engineer, and we have declared two objects, doctor and engineer, of these two classes. You would see that in both of the classes, one of the data member is salary, Once I have declared these two objects, namely doctor and engineer, and I have read data into it, at one point for some reason I may be interested in knowing whether the salary of doctor is more or the salary of engineer is more. To do so, I need to compare the salary of doctor with the salary of engineer, and let us say to perform this comparison, I want to write a function. Now, I have three options: either the function which I want to write to find out the maximum of these two or the larger of these two, that function either I can write in class doctor or I can write it in class engineer, or I can write it as an independent function. First, let us try to write that function in doctor. How would I write that particular function? I am writing a function called max in class doctor, and the purpose of this particular function is that it should return me the larger salary. If the salary of doctor is larger, it should return me that salary. If the salary of engineer is larger, it should return me that salary. So, we have written this particular function. This function looks fine, but actually it is not fine. Why? Because here compiler is going to raise an error. Why? Because here I am saying E dot salary. You would see that this max function is the member function of doctor class. It is not the member of engineer class. So, for engineer class, this function is an outside function, and this data member of engineer class is private. What I am doing here is I am trying to access the private member of engineer class in an outside function, and you know the private member of any class cannot be accessed in outside function. So, not possible for me to have this function in max. Okay, if I can't access it in doctor class, maybe I access in engineer class. So, let me try it other way around. But when I make this particular function member of engineer class, this would be a problem, this would be a problem. What would be a problem? D dot salary. Why? Because again this max is the member function of engineer class, and in this function we are trying to access the private member of doctor class, and the private member of doctor class are only accessible to the member function of doctor class and not to the outside class. So, it is an error. So, what do I do? Let me try the third option, that is of making the max function not the member of either of classes. Let us try to make it an independent function outside the classes. The moment I make it a function outside the classes, well, this will be D dot salary will be an error and E dot salary will be an error, both will be an error. Why? Because this function is neither member of doctor class nor engineer class, and the salary is the private member of doctor class and this salary is the private member of engineering class, and both of these salaries being the private members of doctor engineer class cannot be accessed in outside function. So, what do we do? Neither I can make this function member of doctor class, nor I can make it a member of engineer class, nor I can make it as an independent function. So, can't I perform or can't I write such kind of function? No, I can write a function. I have one way of doing it is that I make this particular function friend of doctor and engineer class. The moment I make it friend of these two classes, that means doctor and engineers class will allow this function to access their private members. Let us see how. Here this is an independent function we have defined outside, but I have declared it as a friend function inside this engineer class. I have also declared it as a friend function in doctor class. Since I have declared in doctor class that max is my friend, engineer class has declared that max is my friend, this max function will be allowed to access the private members of doctor engineer class, and hence this program will work fine, and this is how we would be able to obtain the larger of the salaries of doctor and engineer. So, this comparison will work fine, this access is valid, this access is valid, and it would return doctor salary or engineer salary depending upon whosoever's salary is larger one. So, one situation where we need to use the friend function is that when we need to access the private members to more than one classes. In this case, the friend function can be of some help. We can write an independent function and can make that particular function friend of both the classes, so that it gets an access to private member of first and second class both, and the job that we requires the access of data members of both classes can be easily performed in this particular function. There are other situations also wherein we require friend function. There are certain situations where we might use a friend function, as we did in the example that we have just discussed just now. Here we can find other ways of dealing with this situation also, but there are certain situations wherein friend function remains the only option for us to achieve certain objectives. As we move on and discuss operator overloading and the other features of C++, we will see that what are the situations where the use of the friend function becomes mandatory, and that is the only option that is available to us, and without friend function we can't achieve what we are trying to achieve. But the example that I just discussed now, in which friend function is one of the ways of solving that particular problem, but as I said that when we make a particular function a friend, we to certain extent are violating data hiding. So, in this case we may do something else also to achieve the same thing, that is we have a way of doing the same thing without making any function friend. Let us see how. If I do not want to make the function friend, what I can do is I can take help of get set functions. In this case I only need to access these salaries, therefore get functions are good enough. So, what I do is in my doctor class I write a function get salary, in my engineer class I define a function get salary. In this class it returns the salary of the doctor object, and in this class this function get salary returns the salary of the engineer object. And here what I can do is I can write the statement like, rather than comparing d dot salary and e dot salary, what I am doing is I am obtaining these salaries by d dot get salary, and here I am obtaining the salary by saying e dot get salary. This will work fine because get salary is a member function and which is public. So, I can access it well, and what I will do to return the value, again I will get that salary from through this particular function, and whatever value I received I will return as a return value of this. So, here we could achieve that function without making max function friend. I believe wherever it is possible for us to avoid making a function friend with the help of get set methods, it may be a good idea to make use of get set methods, and especially in those cases wherein we need to access only one or two data members of a class. So, rather than making the function friend, we might resort to get set function. If we require the member functions of all the data members to be processed in that function, in that case we may require to write too many get set functions, and in that case we might think that friend function may be a defining that function as a friend function may be a better idea, or maybe we can go for redesigning our classes, so that this need of outside function requiring to process all the data members of class is not there. So, we should use friend function sparingly. As long as we can do without friend function, we must do without friend function, but as I said that in coming modules we will see that there does arise certain situation wherein friend function remains the only solution for us to achieve our goal or to perform the task that we wish to perform. In that case, when there is no other option available, we have to make the function friend, but if there are other method, we must evaluate that whether the other methods are better than making this particular function friends, and in most of the cases we might find that we have other ways of solving the problem, and we may decide not to make the function friend. So, here we need to be little more conservative. The thumb rule is not make any function friend, make any function friend only when it becomes mandatory for us to make that particular function friend, and when it becomes mandatory, when we are not able to find any other way of achieving what we are trying to achieve, When we do not find any other way, okay, go and make one or two functions friend, but if we find other ways of doing the job, maybe it may be a good idea to avoid making outside functions friend. Not only the functions can be made friend, it is also possible for us to, let us say if I have a class doctor and I have a class engineer, and if all the functions of engineer class requires to access private member of doctor class, we can also make the engineer class, that is the entire class, friend of the first class. You may try this in one of the programs, that is we have seen how to make a particular function friend. You can attempt yourself making one class friend of the other class. In this case also, as I said, making a function friend or class function should be done as a last resort. We must resort to the other ways of solving that problem, or we should try to see that do we need to redesign the application, so such need is not there, or we can make use of get set methods or the other ways of solving that problem. If nothing seems to be working, in that case we can make the outside functions friend, or in some situations we may decide to make another class friend of one class. I am sure you would go and try writing a program wherein you learn that how to make a function outside function class outside function friend of the class, or make another class friend of this class. Try this out yourself. Happy programming. Now, before moving on, we would like to see one more thing in this module, that is how to define pointer to function. You know that pointer variables are the variables which can hold the address of certain kind of values. For example, if I declare a pointer to an integer, I may declare a variable which holds the pointer variable which is pointer to an integer, and this kind of variable will be able to hold the address of any integer. Similarly, we can define pointer to float, pointer to double, pointer to object, pointer to array, and also pointer to function. Let us see how to define pointer to function and what does it mean. What does a pointer to function would actually mean, and what can be the possible use of pointer to function. We can define pointer to function as follows. When we put the name of the function within small braces preceded by this asterisk sign, it means I am defining a pointer to function. Now, function name in this case will not be a function name of the function, this will be the name of a pointer variable which can hold the address of any function whose return type is this and which takes these kinds of an argument. We can understand this better with the help of an example. For example, if I have this kind of a declaration, this would mean that function PTR, mind here, the function PTR here is not the name of the function, here function PTR is not function also. Function PTR is a pointer variable which can point to any function which takes two arguments, out of which the first is the integer one and the second one is the float one, and the return type of the function is int. So, any function whose return type is int and which takes one integer and one float argument, function point PTR can hold the address of such a function. Let us see how. Let us say we have two functions, one is do work whose return type is integer and which takes two arguments, first one being integer and second one being float. Similarly, we have another function whose return type is also integer and which also takes the similar arguments, that is the first argument as integer and the other one as the float value. Now, in this case, this function pointer can be made to point to either of these functions. As I said before, a function pointer, this function PTR can point to any function with return type integer and two arguments, first being integer and the second being float, and you would see the do work is such a function which has return type integer and arguments, two arguments, first integer and the second float argument. Similarly, compute also has a similar prototype, that is its return type is integer and it has two arguments, first one being integer and second one being float. function PTR has been defined to point to any function with this kind of an prototype. Therefore, function PTR can be made to point of either of these two. How do we make it to point to these two functions? I can simply say function PTR do work. I am not using a ampersand sign here. Why? Because the name of the function itself is a pointer which holds the address of the function. So, that address I can store into the function PTR. I can also make function PTR point to compute. Now, when I have to call this function do work or compute, I can call it the way I do it, do work and then passing argument. I can also call it with the help of function pointer. Now, how do we call it with the help of the function pointer? We say star PTR, which will dereference that particular function. If PTR is pointing to do work, this would mean do work and we pass this argument. So, in this case, this call will result into calling do work. If function PTR is pointing to compute, in this case the same statement will result into calling the function to calling the compute function. So, here we can have a function. Now, here I am writing a statement which is flexible one and which at a different point of time might result into calling different functions. In our application, there does exist situations many a times wherein we not always want to call one function. For example, now for some formula computation, sometimes we want to call cos function, sometimes sine function. So, if we are not sure, either we can resort to if then else kind of a ladder or switch case kind of a situation, or the third option could be that we can create a single statement wherein instead of writing the specific name of the function, we can write function pointer, and at in different scenarios we can make this pointer point to different functions, and this statement when executes in different executions or at different points may result into calling different functions depending on to what kind of function that function has been made to point to. We can define pointer to function, not only pointer to function, we can also define pointer to the member functions of the class. Let us see how do we define member pointers to member functions. Again, here I am defining, since this variable has been kept within small braces, this again is a pointer to function, but this time I am qualifying this with the scope resolution operator. I am saying time scope resolution operator and FPTR, which means FPTR is a pointer to function, but it can only point to the member of time class, and to the time class functions also it can only point to a function which has a prototype where the function does not take any argument and its return type is void, which means that this FPTR can point to any member function of time class whose return type is void and which does not take any argument. You would recall that in our time class we had two functions, read time and display time, whose return type is void and they do not take any argument. So, therefore, this FPTR can be made to point to either read time or it can be made to point to the display time. How do we do that? Here again we use time and scope resolution operator, and then we specify name of the function, because here we are trying to say that FPTR is to point to read time of time class, not an independent function read time, and similarly here the FPTR is being made to point to the display time function of time class. We can use FPTR to call to these two functions also. How do we do it? We say star FPTR. Now, since this is the member function of the time class, it needs to be invoked on time object. So, we will have to say T dot then the pointer to that member function and the function call operator. If this function would have been taking an argument, we would have supplied it over here, but the function to which it points to does not take any argument. So, these are empty braces. Now, if FPTR is pointing to read time, this statement will result into invocation of read time on object T. If FPTR is made to is at this point of time pointing to display time, in that case this statement would result in invocation of display time on object T. Here what we have done is we have defined or declared this particular function pointer, and later on we have initialized assigned, or we have made it to point to some function. It is also possible for us to initialize this function pointer at the time of declaration itself. To do so, we can do something like this. Here FPTR again is being defined as a pointer to time class member function with return type void and which does not take any argument, and at the time of declaration itself we are making it point to the read time function. So, friends, in this particular module we tried to see the function overloading, we tried to see that how can we pass default arguments to the function. We also tried to understand what are friend functions, and how to make a function friend of a class, and we also tried to see that how to define pointer to function or pointer to member of the class. Before concluding the session, I would again like to reiterate that functions are powerful tools for creating modular design of program, which is readable, effective, easy to modify, easy to test, easy to debug, and easy to maintain. So, in your programming, do write good modular program which is easy to understand and modular. So, happy programming, and look forward to meet you in the next module with more features of C++. Thank you.